He walked off with the Mustangs. And for a while, yeah, it looked like he won. Shiny trailers, fresh paint catching the sun, neighbors slowing down just to stare. Meanwhile, I'm in my driveway, loading greasy engine blocks that look like they belong in a scrapyard. But here's the part nobody saw coming. I didn't lose anything that mattered. My name's Caleb Turner. Grew up in a quiet town outside Wichita, Kansas, the kind of place where everybody knows your truck before they know your name. And my old man, Ray Turner, he was that guy people called when they wanted something brought back from the dead, not people, cars. American muscle. Mustangs, Chargers, GTOs. If it roared in the late 60s, he knew it better than the factory did. Every weekend, same routine, black coffee at 6, radio humming low, and that barn behind our house. That was his kingdom. Smelled like oil, rust, and patience. Yeah, patience has a smell, and it sticks to you. By the time I was a kid, he already had 3 projects that he called the retirement plan: a 67 Shelby GT 500, a 69 Boss 429, and a 68 Fastback built to bullet spec. Not replicas, not clones, real deal cars with matching VIN histories, original documentation, the kind collectors whisper about like they're sacred objects, fully restored. Those 3 together would have cleared over $3 million easy. But he never rushed them. Said rushing a classic is like lying. Eventually it shows. Then he passed. Just like that. Heart gave out one Tuesday morning. No warning, no goodbye speech, just silence where an engine used to be. And what he left behind, man, it wasn't money. It was half-built frames, labeled crates stacked to the ceiling, handwritten notes in grease-stained notebooks that looked like they belonged in a museum. And to anyone else, it was chaos. To me, it was a roadmap. Now here's where things get ugly. 2 weeks after the funeral, my neighbor shows up. Victor Hale. Guy always had that smile that didn't reach his eyes. You know the type. Drives a leased Mercedes. Talks like he's already negotiating something even when he's saying hello. He walks up our driveway with a lawyer in a gray suit and a folder thick enough to ruin your day. My mom opens the door. She hasn't slept right in days, still wearing my dad's old flannel like it might keep him close, and Victor doesn't waste time. He starts talking about property lines, encroachment, survey discrepancies, apparently. According to him, that barn, my dad's barn, had been sitting a few feet over onto his land for years, and he had documentation, photos, survey reports, all of it, just never brought it up while my dad was alive. Funny how that works. The lawyer chimes in, calm voice, rehearsed tone, explaining liability, potential lawsuits, how costly it could get if this went to court, and then, like he's offering help, Victor suggests a simple resolution. He gets the vehicles in the barn, the incomplete ones, as he called them, and in exchange, he doesn't pursue legal action. My mom, she didn't understand what those cars really were. To her, they were just projects that kept her husband busy. She's grieving, exhausted, scared of losing the house too, so she signs. Just like that. I wasn't even there. I was 19, at trade school in Tulsa, trying to build something for myself. I get the call after everything's already done. Papers signed, cars gone. By the time I make it back home, Victor's already loading them up, and man, he made a show of it. Flatbed trailers lined up like it's some kind of parade, straps pulled tight, chrome catching the light, neighbors watching like it's entertainment. And there I am, standing there with nothing but what he left behind. Boxes shoved into a corner, parts he called scrap. I remember picking up one of the engine blocks, heavy, cold, covered in years of grime, and Victor just laughs. Not a chuckle, a full-on, smug laugh. Enjoy the leftovers, kid, he says, leaning against his truck like he's already counting money. I'll be done with these in a year, maybe 2. Then I'm living easy. I didn't say anything, just nodded, kept loading. Because here's the thing, and this is where the story really starts. He thought he took the cars. He didn't. He took the shells. I took the heart. And he had no idea what that meant, not yet. All right, before we go any further, let me slow this down for a second, because what Victor pulled, it wasn't just shady, it was calculated, and yeah, it happens way more often than people think. From a legal perspective, property line disputes like this fall into a gray zone that can get ugly fast, especially in suburban areas with older surveys. According to standard procedure, if a structure crosses into someone else's land, even by a few feet, that person can claim encroachment, and depending on the situation, they might have leverage to force removal or negotiate compensation. Now here's the part people miss. Timing is everything. Victor sat on that information for years, didn't say a word while my dad was alive, because he knew my dad would have fought it, legally, aggressively, probably won. This is a psychological trap. You wait until the strongest decision-maker is gone. Then you apply pressure to the weakest point. In this case, my mom, grieving, sleep-deprived, overwhelmed with legal language she didn't understand. You introduce urgency, hint at lawsuits, and then offer a solution that feels like relief, not because it's fair, but because it ends the stress. And the cars? He didn't actually want the land. He wanted what was sitting on it, or at least what he thought was valuable. The lesson here is, sometimes the biggest mistake isn't taking something unfairly. It's not fully understanding what you've taken. So yeah, I let him take them. No arguments, no threats, no dramatic, "you'll regret this" speech. Just loaded those engine blocks into my beat-up Silverado and drove them back to a garage that suddenly felt a whole lot smaller and a whole lot more important. Now, if you've never seen a bare engine block from a late 60s Mustang, it doesn't look like much, just a chunk of iron, heavy, ugly, covered in decades of grease. But to the right eyes, that's identity. That's history. That's the difference between a car being worth $100,000 or $1 million. My dad used to say it all the time. Anyone can make a car look right, but you can't fake where it came from. And Victor? He was about to learn that the expensive way. I cleaned those blocks up, not to make them pretty, just to preserve them, oiled every surface, wrapped them carefully, stored them like artifacts, because that's what they were, original matching number engines tied to 3 of the most collectible Mustangs you could get your hands on. Then I waited. And man, waiting is hard when you're 19. When you just watch someone walk off with what feels like your entire inheritance. But this wasn't about revenge, not the loud kind. Anyway, this was about timing. Meanwhile, Victor went all in. I'd see the deliveries, crate engines being shipped in, high-performance builds, modern internals. He wasn't cutting corners. He dropped serious money. We're talking boutique restoration shops, Concours-level paint jobs, custom interiors stitched down to the last detail. Easily $400,000, maybe more. And to anyone driving by, those cars looked perfect. Better than perfect. Honestly, they gleamed deep, mirror-like paint, flawless chrome, engines so clean you could eat off them. Victor would roll them out onto his driveway sometimes, just to admire them, or maybe to make sure everyone else did too. He'd catch me watching once or twice, give me that same smile, like he'd already won. And maybe in his world he had. Because here's the thing, most people don't know the difference. To the average eye, a restored Mustang is a restored Mustang. It's loud, it's beautiful, it turns heads. And if that's all you're chasing, he nailed it. But Victor wasn't just chasing attention. He wanted validation, status, the kind that comes from collectors, investors, people who don't just look at cars, they audit them. And that's where his plan started to crack. 2 years later, word gets around. Victor's taking all 3 cars to Monterey Car Week. Yeah, that Monterey, the Super Bowl of classic cars, where 7-figure deals happen over handshakes and quiet nods, where everything gets inspected, documented, verified down to the smallest detail. That's not a car show, that's a courtroom with better lighting. I remember hearing about it from a guy at the shop. He's like, "Hey, isn't that your neighbor heading out to Monterey with some serious metal?" I just nodded, didn't say much, but inside, I knew. Because Monterey doesn't care how shiny your paint is, they care about numbers, serial numbers, casting numbers, VIN stamps, provenance, history you can prove, not just polish. Victor rolls in thinking he's about to cash out. 3 pristine Mustangs, fully restored, looking like they just drove off the factory floor. Inspectors take the first look, then the second, then they start asking questions. Pop the hood, check the engine stamp. Pause, check it again, look at each other. And just like that, the energy shifts. No yelling, no dramatic accusations, just quiet, professional disappointment. Non-matching numbers. That phrase, it hits like a hammer in that world. Because what it really means is, this isn't what you're claiming it is. No original engine, no verified continuity, no investment-grade listing. Suddenly those $1 million cars, they're not $1 million cars anymore. They're, well, really nice replicas. The room cools off, conversations get shorter. Bidders lose interest, offers drop hard. I heard later one of them got a tentative bid around $150K, maybe a little more, which sounds like a lot until you realize what it was supposed to be worth. That's not a sale, that's a loss. And Victor? He's standing there, watching it happen in real time. 2 years of money, effort, ego, unraveling under fluorescent lights. That night, my phone rings. Unknown number. I let it ring once, twice, 3 times. Then I pick up. Caleb. Same voice, but different tone, tighter, controlled, like he's holding something back. You still got those old engine blocks. I lean back in my chair, look over at the shelf in the corner of my garage. 3 blocks, wrapped, preserved, waiting, exactly where I left them. Maybe. I say, keep it casual. Pause on the other end. I might be interested, he says, trying to sound like this is just business, like he didn't laugh at me 2 years ago. I let the silence stretch a little, just enough. Market's changed, I tell him. Another pause. He knows. He absolutely knows. We don't argue. We don't negotiate the way you'd expect. No raised voices, no back and forth. Because the truth is, the negotiation already happened 2 years ago. He just didn't realize it. A few days later, he shows up at my place. No lawyer this time. No folder, just him. And for the first time, he doesn't look in control. We walk into the garage. I unwrap one of the blocks, show him the original stampings, the numbers that tie it back to the exact chassis he thought he owned outright. He doesn't touch it at first, just stares, because now he understands. Finally, these complete the cars, he says quietly. I nod. They are the cars. We settle on a number. $870,000 for 3 pieces of iron he once called scrap. He wires the money the next morning. No ceremony, no handshake for closure, just a transaction. And just like that, the balance shifts. After all the restoration costs, auction fees, transport, and what he paid me, Victor barely breaks, even, maybe walks away with a little, maybe not, depends how you run the numbers. 2 years, $500,000, all that effort, just to end up right back where he started. Meanwhile, I took what he didn't want, what he didn't understand, and turned it into the only thing that ever really mattered. Because the shine? Yeah, that was always his. But the value? That was mine the entire time. So what's the takeaway here? Besides the obvious, don't mess with a mechanic's kid, right? It's deeper than that. Because this wasn't really about cars, not entirely. It was about perception, control, and understanding what actually holds value, not just what looks valuable. Victor saw 3 Mustangs and thought he hit the jackpot. And to be fair, most people would. They see curves, paint, badges, and they assume worth. But he was playing a surface-level game in a system that rewards depth, and that's where he lost. The lesson here is, value isn't always visible. Sometimes it's buried in paperwork, in serial numbers, in knowledge that doesn't scream for attention. And if you don't know where to look, you can walk right past something priceless. Or worse, trade it away thinking it's junk. And yeah, there's a human side to this too. This is a psychological trap a lot of people fall into, especially when ego gets involved. Victor didn't just want profit. He wanted the win. He wanted to be the guy who outsmarted everyone, who turned someone else's loss into his highlight reel. And once you're chasing that feeling, you stop asking the right questions. You stop verifying. You assume. From a legal perspective, he probably thought he played it smart. Used timing, used pressure, found a technical angle with the land, and on paper, maybe he did, but legality doesn't equal understanding, and it definitely doesn't guarantee outcome. According to standard procedure, due diligence is everything, especially in high-value assets, provenance, documentation, original components. These aren't details, they are the asset. Skip that, and you're not investing, you're gambling. And here's the part one keep coming back to. I didn't win because I was smarter than him. I won because I knew what my dad knew. I paid attention. All those weekends in the barn, all those conversations I half listened to as a kid, they added up. Not in a loud way, not in a flashy way, but in a way that mattered when it counted. That's the long game. And the long game? It's quiet. It doesn't look impressive day to day. It doesn't get applause. It just sits there, building, waiting, until one day, everything lines up, and the people who were rushing realize they missed something they can't replace. And you don't always get that kind of ending. Let's be real. Most stories like this don't wrap up neatly. Sometimes the person who cuts corners gets away with it. Sometimes the system doesn't correct itself. Sometimes you don't get the call 2 years later asking to buy back what they laughed at. But when it does happen, it's not luck. It's alignment between patience, knowledge, and timing. So if you take anything from this, it's this. Don't get distracted by what shines. Ask what's underneath. Ask what proves it's real. And maybe more importantly, ask yourself, are you playing for the quick win? Or are you building something that holds up when it actually gets tested? Because sooner or later, everything gets inspected. And when it does, the truth shows up whether you're ready or not. So what do you think? Was this justice? Or just business finally catching up? Drop your take in the comments. I read more of them than you'd think. And if you're into stories where the long game wins, yes, stick around. There's more where this came from.